So I wanted to show you some examples of still life and how different artists have approached it. Art 1, your still life will strictly be black and white. Art 2 and intermediate art, your still life will be in color. So definitely keep that in mind. So some of these examples are color and some of these examples are black and white. I just kind of want to show you examples. Still life can oftentimes be seen as something that's really boring, but still life is one of the best things to draw from. It builds our observational skills, and you can actually say so much within one artwork with just objects. And depending on what the objects are. So when you're creating your still life, it could be simply about yourself. It could be a self-portrait, and you include objects that represent you, objects that you have at home that you love or you don't like. You can have objects that represent your family members, your friends, your hobbies, your interests. You can make it about your culture, so you can include cultural items in your still life to represent your ethnicity or culture. Because, like, if you're anything like me, I have multiple cultures within my one family, so I can incorporate a lot of different objects. Um, or you can have it be a commentary about like society. You can choose objects that represent what's going on in the world, but make sure they're objects. Um, I want to point out some of these drawings have reflective surfaces. So like this one, there's reflections, and anything with glass is a little bit more challenging. So my art 1 and art 2 students, you might want to avoid objects that are glass and see-through or that are super shiny, because then you'll have the reflections to draw, and I will expect to see those little details in it. Intermediate, if you want more of a challenge, then try one reflective object in there. If not, then make sure to not have it. Okay, it is easier to have objects that are not shiny. So this is an example of a cultural still life. This is just a still life of objects at home. If you're not comfortable with fabrics, I would choose like a solid fabric, a solid color fabric if you're going to incorporate fabric. Um, Patterns gets to be a little bit more challenging. Your still life can be food. Just note that your still life should be, you should be working from the still life and a photo at the same time. So if you're working with food, you want to make sure it's food that can sit or stay out, or that you can arrange in the exact same way every day. Otherwise, the food gets moldy and gross, and you kind of want to avoid that. So be careful about including food into your still life, but that is something that's possible, and it does represent culture. You will be turning in your photo with your drawing, so I can see both. I can see what you set up, how you set it up, and the lighting. If you're going to use natural daylight, definitely take a photo, and you'll have to work from the photo and from the still life. Natural light changes as the day moves on, so you want to be careful about drawing just from the still life. The best bet is to have a light source. Like this drawing, there's a lamp shining on it, and the reason I know that is because of these really dark shadows in the background. That's probably the best way. Set up a still life and have a light source on it, because then you can work on it any time of the day. Here's a color version, and this is representing a culture. This is representing a culture. I would avoid flat pictures, pieces of paper. I would avoid flags, just because they're so flat. It's hard to make it look like an object, and that's the point of this assignment, is to draw objects that we have the appearance that we can pick up and touch. So try to avoid things that are flat. This is another cultural piece. Maybe your still life is just objects that you have at home. And again, be careful about the reflective pieces. I will expect to see all those little details in those clear glasses and whatnot. And again, this is another cultural piece. And just to reiterate, Art 1 will have 3 to 5 objects. Art 2 will have, and intermediate art, you'll both have 5 to 7 objects in your still life.